but thank you for being here today. Of course, as you know, we're going to be talking about how to scale your holiday lighting business. And I actually have a few more tips included in this presentation on behalf of the owner of Certified Lights. So that's a few little bonus tips that he thought was very important as we scaled our lighting business. But I'll go ahead and get started now that we are on the hour. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here, whether you're here live or watching the recording. This will be recorded. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to invest in yourself and learn about scaling your own holiday lighting business. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. Today, I'm going to break down the webinar into three different sections. One is going to be high level scaling, so kind of just very high level business mindset and the few key things that you should know already if you're a business owner, but if you don't, it will be very important to keep track of those high level scaling tips and things to keep in the back of your head as you're kind of down in the day to day during the season. Next, I'll talk about specific growing pains that I hear a lot of installers have, and kind of how I would recommend, or we as certified would recommend dealing with those, and some tips to go along with it. And then, of course, the extra tips that I just mentioned from the owner of Certified Lights on what he thinks is the best kind of things to look out for. And then, of course, I'll talk about some of our product advancement programs, affiliate programs, partnership program, and how you can leverage our support system to help you reduce your costs, increase your margins, and just overall have a more profitable season. Before I continue, I want to say this is going to be a fairly short webinar, roughly 30 minutes, so I'll go through the information fairly quick, but if at any point you have questions about the tips that I give or any of the information in this webinar, the chat is open, so feel free. I see someone already kind of sending messages there, so go ahead and oh. But if you do have a question, go ahead and send them in the chat, and I'll cover all this at the end. Um, this webinar will be recorded. This is a common question, so I'll go ahead and answer it now. Of course, it will be recorded. It will be a link sent out this weekend, so you can go back and rewatch it if you missed some things. And I think that's all. So let's go ahead and talk about certified lights for just a second. We are in our 20th season. This is our 2026 will be our 20th year installing Christmas lights in the DFW area. We've been bringing in seven figures annually for just the install business for a number of years now. We've really got the hang of how to operate both for residential customers and commercial projects, both large and small projects. We really got the hang of kind of everything that goes into scaling, maintaining, and keeping your customer retention rates high, your margins high, while kind of streamlining your products, which I'll talk about more. We have hundreds of commercial and residential properties under our belt, probably thousands at this point. But seasonally, we have hundreds of properties that we decorate. Our portfolio is maybe half residential, half commercial, maybe leaning a bit more commercial, maybe 60-40 at this point. And then we also have a partnership network of over 300 installers across the US. That's all of you. People join our webinars, join our email list, our newsletter list, and they learn about our programs, our support systems, and then they join our partnership. And that's really just, I'll talk more about it later, but essentially it's a network that you can use to kind of bounce ideas off of, bounce questions off of, and learn from each other. Um, they're very dedicated installers all around the country, and they're owner operators. They're not owned by us or any kind of franchise system. It's their own individual business, but we kind of come together as a network to do just that, to learn from each other. So that's a little bit about a certified license. And of course, we are also a manufacturer and distributor of the products that we use for our install company. Very high quality, top of the line, but not super high price. So our strive is to be the best value out there. Very high quality, very low prices. But without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about scaling. So as I mentioned, the first kind of section is going to be high level scaling. So if you are already a business owner, you should hopefully know most of this stuff. Um, but I wanted to focus on these three specifically because it's very important to make sure that you are running the business from the perspective of growth, from the perspective of 3 to 5 years down the line, not just today or this season, because that's going to kind of keep you it's gonna slow your progress year over year if you're just thinking about today or this season and you're not thinking about how can I make this a process-oriented business that can scale over time, of course, and that's why you're here. So first, margins, obviously, the revenue minus expenses equals profits. The less your expenses, the higher your revenues, the higher your margins are essentially. Now, there are some things you can control when it comes to expenses and revenues, and there are some things that you can't control. So that's why you should focus on the right type of expenses and making sure that you are positioned to receive as much revenue as you can per job and be as efficient as possible with your installations, whether it's residential or commercial, so you can have more time to install new customers, to support new clients and new business, and not spend hours and hours and hours on just one property, because that's how you run out of time. The season's really only 3 months for installs, so you want to maximize that time as much as you can. And the best way to do that is to build systems to be as efficient as possible and to have the systems in place that'll kind of allow you to do that. So here in the middle section, I said not all expenses are equal, and that's true. There are, of course, expenses that you can control, expenses that you can't really control, and just are fixed or general overhead that you have to pay regardless of how your business is performing. But there are other expenses, the variable costs, like your product costs and your marketing, that you have some control over, and that's how you can leverage our systems and our programs to lower the expenses as much as possible during the year to keep, of course, your profits higher, your margins higher, and then in turn, it'll be higher revenue as well per job, which of course, again, increases your margins. Um, Now, the last bucket here in the high level scaling is region specific marketing. I wanted to focus specifically on marketing because it's kind of being broken down here. So we're going from margins to just focusing on the expenses part of the margins and what you can control. So again, it's marketing and product costs essentially. You can kind of control your labor cost, but as you grow, you're going to need more installers. You're going to need office people. If you get to a certain level, you're going to need more warehouse space. So there are certain things that could be considered variable costs, but are really not super under your control. But you can control how much marketing spend you have during the year. You can control how much product you bring in and how much you pay for the product that you bring in. I'll come back to that point towards the end. But then, of course, one of the biggest expenses that you can't control is marketing. Now, everyone asks, how can I be the best marketer? How can I have the best marketing for the lowest cost? And that's the right mindset. But everyone, because we're talking kind of high level here, I wanted to point out that every region has its own marketing strategies that work. The marketing strategies that work in Florida are not going to work in California, or they might, depending on your zip code, depending on the average income in your area, depending on the type of clients that you're wanting to bring, commercial versus residential. But in general, I have kind of three tips that will help you get to know what kind of strategies will work in your specific region. And then, of course, I can meet one-on-one with you if you'd prefer. If you'd like to kind of tell me about your market, I can give you the the recommendations for that specific market. Prior to my role as Director of Business Development here at Certified Lights, I was Director of Marketing. So I was very hands-on with a lot of the different campaigns, and I also helped a lot of the partners in our network that I mentioned earlier um, with those types of one-on-one meetings. So if you'd like some of that, my email is listed in the last slide. You can definitely contact me for that. But in general, the three tips high level that I would give on marketing, again, focusing on trying to maximize your margins with minimizing your expenses is to ramp up your marketing spend is the first step. Um, Depending on your region, again, demand for installations can start in August. They can even start in the middle of summer and they can run through early December. Now, if you were here for my last webinar, I mentioned that the demand that you'll see early December is going to be kind of the typically is going to be the lower quality jobs. So people that don't really want to pay a lot, people that are looking for lighting last minute, and these are jobs that are not going to be very high in margins for you just because they're not going to want to pay a lot. So your revenue is going to be pretty low. Your expenses about the same as any other, but because you have like you'll have less profit per job for those early December installs. So you want to ramp up the marketing spend. You want to kind of capture the early demand first because those are the people that are proactive. Those are likely the people that are think ahead and are okay spending 4, 5,000, even 10 to 20 to 30,000 on their installation. A lot of we focus on high value, we call them VIP kind of clients. And those clients typically plan out their year. So their house manager or even just the homeowner um, will think about how much they want to spend on lights. And if they want to spend 10 to $20,000 on lights, they want them to be up for at least 2 months, so they can actually enjoy it, not just the last week of December or the last 3 weeks of December. So of course, to be able to enjoy it for 3 months, they need to be up October 1st. So the contract needs to be signed before October 1st. So that's all just to say to ramp up your marketing spend to try to capture that demand early on for those people in your area that are more proactive and are willing to spend more on their installation. Um, the second one is keep campaigns flexible. So this goes hand in hand with ramping up marketing spend. You're going to try different strategies, and some are going to work, some are not going to work. You have to keep a very close eye on the marketing campaigns that have a high ROI. Then that's why I put here focus on ROI underlined, a return on your investment. So if you see some campaigns that you don't have a lot invested in doing well, you're going to want to be able to put more money into that campaign so your ROI can actually bring in more money. Um, and that's why they need to be flexible. So if you're doing yard signs or if you're doing postcards, you need to be able to quickly print some more if it starts to work. And if you see that you're 2 months in, I mean, you shouldn't go 2 months without analyzing your marketing campaign. If you see that you're maybe 2 or 3 weeks in and you have zero leads, zero calls, zero emails from those campaigns, then maybe it's time to pivot and cut that campaign off and try something else. So staying flexible and starting early are the two biggest tips here. And then the third one is knowing your marketing spend. Generally, the rule of thumb is the younger the business is, the more you want to spend on marketing. But the range that you should focus on is 5 to 10% of your projected revenue. So if you're a younger company, um, even a bit more than 10% is perfectly fine because again, that's the type of expense that you can control. And if you're not spending a lot on product up front, which you can do through our product advancement program, where you can get X number of homes, let's say 40 homes worth of product fronted to you, zero down and 0% interest at the beginning of the season. So then you can spend those tens of thousands of dollars or whatever it would be for product cost into your marketing campaigns. And then you only have to pay for the product as you go, starting in November. So well into the season after you've already started bringing in bringing in clients, installing homes, and bringing in revenue. So that's one of the ways that we've designed our programs to help you reduce your expenses up front so you can see higher profits on the front end and on the back end instead of being in the red most of the season, like most install companies. So those are kind of the three high level scaling buckets that I would recommend making sure you're focused on throughout the year. If I had to sum it up, it would be focus on margins, make sure you focus on the right expenses using ROI analysis per marketing campaign, and then get to know your area, get to know your region, get to know when people in higher end areas are looking to install Christmas lights and be in front of them when they're ready. Keep your campaigns flexible and know how much you're going to want to spend. Now, I'll move on to the common growing pains, as I call it, and tips on scaling that I notice a lot of installers come to me and ask me questions about. So I'll kind of go through those. I want to pause here and say that if you have any questions on anything I mentioned in the last one, I know this is going to be a fairly dense presentation, but fairly quick. So if you do have questions, please just write them in the chat and I'll be happy to answer those. But moving forward, um, one of the most common growing pains is that people see demand, but they don't have enough installers to actually go and install. That's very common, especially maybe in the second, third, fourth year, as as your company starts to scale and see that demand from the reputation that you receive. And it's very common. So there are a couple tips. It is a tough problem to solve, again, depending on your region. But there are three tips that we can recommend. One, to upskill your current crew. Most installers have a main business already, so whether it's landscape light or lawn care, window washing, pressure washing, whatever it is, any kind of home service, typically already have the labor required to install at least 200 homes. If you're efficient with your crew and you're upskilling them during the year, they're going to want to stick with you. And if you build the confidence in them to use the ladders and get on roofs, which is actually the biggest inhibitor for installer for your current crew to want to start installing Christmas lights, is these people are afraid of getting on the roof. And it's super common and it's totally okay. But it's up to you, the owner operator, to build that confidence in them to make sure that when they're using the proper safety equipment, they're using the proper safety procedures, but also to show them that it's okay to be on the roof and that there's if they do it properly, there's a very low chance of them actually falling. Now, through our partnership program, there's a whole chapter, a whole kind of a series of videos that talks about roof safety, the right equipment to use, the right shoes, the right ladders, the right protection, the right belaying system, which is a rope that you anchor onto, and all of that. So if you want to check that out, I can send more info. But that would be my first step. Upskill your crew and leverage your existing installers because that's going to be the easiest solution. The second one is leverage our affiliates. Certified through our partnership program, we've partnered with several companies throughout the US that help our partners grow. One of those is a company that helps you find qualified installers, and it's great because you can essentially outsource the hiring, but you still do the training and they're already qualified to be installers. So it's people looking for this type of job, maybe people with this background, and the affiliate that we've partnered with finds those people in your area. So again, I can send more info on that. And then the last kind of tip that I give are if you are going to go with seasonal employees, seasonal installers, which we do, most, if not all of our installers, except for our field supervisor, are seasonal. So they come back for the season during August, maybe starting August, October, something like that. Um, they stay with our company for the install season, and then they go find another job or go back to their current job that they have during the off season. This is great because you can give them incentives to continue coming back. They're already trained, you already trust them, they trust you, and they like working for you. And if you give them incentives, maybe cash bonuses, excuse me, or um, or I mean, bonuses really is the best way to get installers in our experience to continue returning. But you can come up with other types of incentives that um, get them excited about coming back, essentially. And then if you start hiring early, you'll kind of get the first pick, as it were, of the market. So of the people kind of looking for this type of job in the market. So if you're leveraging our affiliates, we'll recommend that you start early on, and that way you can kind of get the best of the people in your area. And then you can also use those incentives to keep them coming back, just like for your customers, which is a great segue to the second point. The second growing pain that I see is that installers have enough installers, but they're having trouble increasing their sales. Maybe they've reached a plateau in their second or third year. They can't get past maybe that 50 house mark or maybe the 100 house mark. Um, and here there's a couple of kind of very common, not super out of the box solutions, but things that work and worked for us, worked for hundreds of our partners. And it's a tip that I'd give y'all right now. It's to promote 3 to 5 year contracts with annual discounts. What that means essentially is if you're charging $1,000 per year for your installs for a house, ask your client if they're willing to sign up for a 3 year contract. If you're confident in your work and your quality of installation and your customer service, and you're a good salesperson, there's really no reason why they'd say no. So instead of charging 1,000 every year, you might give them a 5% discount or a 10% discount if they sign a 3 to 5 year contract. That one keeps your customer retention super high. Um, it incentivizes referrals as well because if you do a good job on their house and if it's a high value client, like wealthy, let's say client, then they have wealthy friends in the area, of course, so they're gonna kind of talk about your house, your company when their friends come see their house, and that kind of just gets the snowball rolling. So then you can sign more and more people onto 3 to 5 year contracts with a discount. That's what we did to scale and to make sure that we have solid business going into the year so we can focus on growing instead of keeping our customers because we know that those customers are already going to come back. So instead of having to resell the same customer over and over again, you know you already have them locked down. They're happy because they're paying a lower price. You're happy because you know you have guaranteed customers, guaranteed revenue coming in. And then year over year, it's very easy to upsell them. So the first year, for example, on this house, you did just the roof line and the bushes. The third year, you can add some trees. There's a big tree over here. You can say, hey, last year we did these two, but I think your house would look amazing if we also did this tree here on the left. Or they have a wall kind of going across here. If you say, well, last year we did that tree, and I think this year a great addition to continue expanding is adding lit garland and then just kind of continue upselling them so each customer gets you more and more revenue year over year, despite you giving them a 10% discount. Um, and then the last but not least for that second column there is working on your brand reputation with commercial clients. So the companies that are seeing increasing sales problems, so sales problems with increasing their sales, are typically, like I said, already a few years into the company, into the business. And you might want to start at this point, if you're confident in your quality of installation, to start thinking about commercial clients, commercial work. Um, this is the logical next step for growing companies, and it's one that I highly recommend getting into once you're ready. If you're not ready, don't start it. But if you're ready, if you think your company's large enough, then you can start building those relationships with HOAs, homeowners associations, with malls, with car dealerships, with fast food restaurants, with any kind of commercial property you can think of. And then year over year, you start building your reputation. So it kind of goes back to incentivizing referrals. Word of mouth is huge for commercial clients. And that's why kind of we recommend staying away from it if you are not ready. Because if you do a bad job, the word will get around that maybe this company didn't do such a great job, so maybe avoid them. But if you knock it out of the park, did a great job, then that will also get around. And then you start building your reputation, your brand awareness. Some good tips to kind of get into that space is joining the associations in your area. A lot of the home owners associations have kind of larger associations that they all meet at, and you can sponsor their lunches, you can sponsor their speakers, you can sponsor their events, and they'll put your logo right up on there. They'll even give you a some time to speak in front of their meetings, in front of their lunches, and you can go promote your company. So there's kind of low cost ways to get yourself in front of these clients that are more creative and that will start opening the doors to commercial jobs if again if you're ready. And then the last but not least, this is a big one, is having less variety, offering less things. Simplify your product offering. The less you keep in stock as far as variety of products, the better it's going to be for you because your product costs are going to go down, your inventory time is going to go down, and you're essentially just streamlining the training that you have to do for your new installers. So instead of having to train your installers on C9, C7s, and all the other little bulbs that you could have, if you just stick to one, they only have to know one, and then they can focus on making that one product installed really well versus having to know these wide variety of products that your customer's not going to know the difference of, and that's just going to make your inventory and your training time skyrocket, which of course means skyrocketing labor costs, which if we go back here, um, higher expenses, lower margins. For us, the marine products that we recommend are five. There's five main products that you need in this business to, and you can take this up to the seven-figure mark. It's C9s, mini lights. So the C9s will wrap roof lines, they'll wrap flower beds, they'll wrap driveways, sidewalks, windows, garages. It's a very versatile product. Minis are used for wrapping trees, bushes, garland, and wreaths. Although if you purchase wreaths or garland from us or really any other supplier, they can already come pre-lit. But those are the lights that they use, the minis. Wreaths garlands, so your greenery, great upselling products, have a product lifespan of over a decade if you use them properly and store them properly, and then bows to go onto the greenery. Now you can also, of course, go into different colors of minis and different colors of C9s, but essentially these are the five main products that you need to have in stock, as well as some timers, some lamp cord, and that's it. Maybe some stakes and clips. But for the products that you're going to show your customer, these five will be more than enough. So focusing on streamlining processes, systems, and your product offerings is going to be the key to really boosting and taking your company to that next level. And then last but not least is the leasing model versus sales model. I'm sure you guys are already familiar with the differences between the two, but if you're not, a lot of companies start off using a sales model. And in our opinion, that is a way to leave money on the table. A sales model essentially is that you are selling your customer the product, and then you're also installing the product for them. So at the end of the season, the product is the customer's. You take it down and they store it. That is just kind of written with problems, increases um, recall rates. So when the time you have to go out and fix problems on the property during the season is going to go up. You don't know if the customer is going to store them properly. For if you do sign a 3 to 5 year contract, they'll have to go and dig it out, which is going to take your crew when they get to the job site longer to start, therefore increasing the the time they spend on the job per house. So it's gonna decrease essentially your margins there as well. There's a lot more I can go into with the sales versus leasing model, but I'm gonna try to kind of keep it brief. For the leasing model, essentially what you're doing is you're leasing the customer the lights, just as the name applies. So it's we sell it as a white glove turnkey service. You tell us what colors and where you want the lights through our suggestion, of course. Um, and that's all they need to do. We'll go install, we'll go maintain the lights if anything goes out, we'll take them down, and we'll store them. So they never need to touch the lights. They never need to replace anything if a bulb breaks or if a bulb uh, goes off or something happens, a squirrel chews through the line. They are not responsible. I am responsible as the company, and it's my job to kind of replace that and make sure it's stored properly. This is a much better option because one, you retain the product. If this customer cancels on you, you don't need to go and buy another house worth of lights. You can reuse the lights that are already uh, owned by you on another customer on the next customer that you bring into your business. The leasing model also allows for very easy upselling. So instead of having to charge your customer your product cost times whatever, you can decrease um, the amount that they pay per item because it's not gonna really cost you much to reuse that product again. So leasing is just overall better. It gives you more control over the entire process from the prep to the installation to the quality assurance to the takedown and storage, giving you more control over how long your product lasts and essentially year over year decreasing your product costs. I can go more into that if you'd like, but for the sake of time, I'm going to move forward. If you do have questions about the leasing versus sales model, I know that's a big topic. Just send them in the chat and I can go over that at the end. As I was getting ready for this presentation, I asked our team kind of what they thought the best tips would be. And aside from the ones I already said, the president emailed me back and kind of gave me these three to make sure I relay to you guys. So just a few extra tips: quality, communication, and pricing. As far as quality goes, this is really about product quality and customer service quality. So making sure you are the best service provider in your area is going to do wonders for your reputation, for your brand image, and it's going to skyrocket the word of mouth referrals. We focus on quality for installs, and now we spend nearly $0 on marketing because most of our new clients, if not all of our new clients, come from word of mouth. And these are primarily high-end million-dollar homes or very large commercial projects just because our name's out there. Now, of course, we've been in this for 20 years, but this happened very early on as well. If you do a good job and really focus on your quality, the referrals are going to start flooding in. Now, what goes into focusing on quality? Making sure you have a fast response time. Like I said, and as I'm sure you know, these lights are only up for a few months, if that. So every day that goes by, so when your customer has a problem with their lights, and every day that goes by that it isn't fixed, they're gonna notice. Every night they're gonna take notice that you are not out there fixing the problem that they have on these lights that are gonna last 2 months. Whereas if they have a problem tonight, they call you and you're out there tonight, that's going to be even better than, arguably, that's even better than if the lights stayed on the whole season because they know that you're attentive, you're paying attention to the service that you're providing, and that you're there ready to fix anything to make their experience the best. And when you're providing, or when you're marketing that you provide top tier service, white glove, turnkey, all those kind of keywords, you have to live up to it, and they will notice whether you will or you won't, and that's what determines the word of mouth and the customer retention rates. So focusing on quality is essential. Now, a few other points here. It's very important to take pictures before, during, and after the install. So before you install, when the lights are already up, and after. This is both for liability's sake and for marketing. So Before and after pictures are great for liability because if your customer says, "Hey, you broke this tile on my roof and I want you to pay for it," and you have the picture of before and after saying, "Hey, that tile was already broken. It's not our fault," then you just saved yourself a whole new roof install. Um, if they, and then very similar, I'll kind of leave it at that example. But there's been many instances in our 20 years of being in the business that that similar situation has happened. And if we hadn't trained our installers to take before, after, before, during, and after pictures, some of our season would have been a lot more expensive, which of course would have been much lower margins. And then during pictures during the season are great for marketing. If you did a great job and you install a house like this, or if you install a commercial property like these two, it's amazing for your marketing. You can send those postcards, you can put that on a postcard and send it to other houses in that neighborhood, or you can send it to other parks or municipalities in your area and say, hey, this is the type of job that we do. It looks amazing. Can I speak with you for 15 minutes? So that's kind of the points on quality. And of course, it makes a lot of sense, but when you're actually practicing it and when you're in the middle of the season, it's hard to keep track. So making sure that you, not just you, but all of your employees are trained to focus on quality, is kind of just gonna bring the whole company up on to another level. Communication. So there's a quote directly from the president, Scott Young. Customers hate not knowing if you got their message or being left in the dark on a problem. It's a very easy way to lose trust and reputation. So this goes exactly back to what I was saying with the sub 24-hour response time. A customer, when they see something's off in their house, maybe the roof line is off or something, they will let you know. It's okay if you're not out there the same night because you're in the middle of the season, but letting them know that you received the problem, you received their message, their phone, their text, whatever it is, and that they are already on the schedule for tomorrow to go out and get that fixed does wonders for trust, reputation, and just to keep the customer calm. They'll be okay knowing that the roof isn't working, the roof lights aren't working, if they know you're going to come out and fix it. But if they sent you one, two, three, five messages and you haven't responded, they have no idea what's going on. They're quite literally in the dark. So making sure your communication is solid with your customers is solid. Um, Now, not only is communication important with your clients, communication with your team is very important. If your team doesn't know that they need to go out there and fix these lights, it's not going to get done. If your team doesn't know that they can only spend 2 hours, they only have 2 hours to be profitable on this house, they need to know that. And they need to know that they need to do that level of quality within a certain period of time for the company to be profitable or depending on how you pay them. Um, so communication both ways is both with your team and with your clients is crucial to making sure that you're ready to scale because when you're good at communicating, that essentially translates into making to being really good at making processes and systems that your clients can follow and that your teams, installation teams can follow. Now, one other thing in their communication is to expect and factor in weather delays. This is a part of the communication because you need to relay this to your clients. If you, we block out the entire week of Thanksgiving, no new installs during Thanksgiving. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, but we do that so we can kind of shift our focus to making sure that the clients we have already installed, and ideally we would be done installing lights by then. So we can shift our focus to making sure that the quality assurance service that we offer our clients is top notch because we're not focused on installing new houses. We're focused on fixing any issues that come up with houses that we've already installed. And if you know a little bit about the business, the kind of peak time that people really want their lights to be working is Thanksgiving and of course Christmas. Those are very family centric weeks and holidays, of course. So when they see that their lights aren't working and they have all their family over from all across the country, they're going to be disappointed if you're not out there tomorrow or tonight fixing that problem. Um, Now, a lot of the problems during Thanksgiving and winter come from weather, from ice, from snow, from whatever it is in your region. So you have to make sure you factor that in and expect there to be problems so that when there are, you're ready. And when they're not, you are um, keeping your customer happy nonetheless. And then last but not least is pricing. So there are a few tips from the president that were very, very important that I think is also important to point out. The big tips, just to kind of summarize, is that you should, even if you're a new company, you should not really ever aim for being the lowest price on the market. Now, one, price competition is, of course, very important, but because of the quality of service, quality of install and customer service that you're claiming to offer, there's really no need to price yourself out of the competitive zone by underpricing yourself. The clients that you're going to get if you do underprice yourself are probably not the clients that you want anyway. If we came into this house and said, um, we can do this for $500, which that's way below what this house is um, for installation, they probably would have gone with this, but you would be losing out on money because they're totally fine with paying a lot more than that if they know that the quality of service is going to be okay or fantastic even. Now, as you start becoming more established in your area, as you start becoming more well known, more reputable with commercial and residential clients, of course, you can go move forward and aim for higher and higher prices. But as you're starting off, really shoot for that mid-tier of the pricing range. And typically, of course, it's going to vary by region, just like everything we talked about. But typically, anywhere for between 6 to 7 foot, a dollar per foot for roofline generally is considered mid tier. Now, again, that is region specific. So in your area, it might be a bit higher, it might be a bit lower. So if you want to consult with me on kind of how to price things correctly, if you're just starting off or if you're 5 years in, feel free to shoot me an email. I can, you'll get my email here in a second. And then last but not least on pricing, some negotiating is okay, but again, don't be the lowest pricing. So there, just a note from the certified president is that there's too much work and risk in this business for high quality service at low pricing. There is no need to be the lowest person out there. If you're priced correctly and really do offer exceptional service, you're going to land those higher end customers. Now, that's all. I know it was a ton of information. I can go back over any of the things that I covered. I wanted to kind of keep this shorter. Now, of course, of it's already been maybe 40 minutes, so I'm a little over time here. I'm gonna go through the questions. Um, if you have any while I read them, feel free to add. Now, my email is here on the slide. Feel free to take a screenshot of that. If you want to meet one-on-one, I'd be happy to do that with you to talk about your sales pricing, your marketing strategy, or anything else that I covered. Um, That's something I can find online. So one of the questions is asking about sample contracts. And yes, that is part of our partnership program. So I guess that's a good time to talk about that. Our partnership program gives you everything you need to start or scale your your business. So whether it's videos to train your new crews on roof safety or anything relating to products or installation, whether it's something like this, where you're wanting sample contracts for how we communicate with our teams and with our clients to give them all of our terms and conditions, kind of position them to be willing to sign a 3 to 5 year contract. and anything else in between, including the affiliate program and the product advancement program that I mentioned. All that can be found in this link I'm about to send, certifiedlights.com. You can read more about a partnership program and you can read more about how to sign up. If you want to talk about that as well, you can definitely email me and I'd be happy to talk with you about that. But Gary, we do have sample contracts on the partnership program portal, so on our website, that you can find. It is essentially a non-branded uh, contract template, the actual one that we use with our customers, and it has the terms and conditions that we use. Of course, they can be modified to fit your business, but there are sample contracts on our partnership program that I'd highly recommend going to check out as you take these tips into consideration. Let me see. It seems I didn't send the link properly. Okay, so again, it's certifiedlight.com/partners. I just sent the link there in the chat. And that's it. So that is the webinar. Thank you so much for coming today. My next one is going to be marketing. So that's always a big one. Marketing your holiday lighting business. I'll go more in depth as to the types of marketing, the types of marketing campaigns, how to go about doing it if you're just starting off, if you're kind of in the middle, maybe 5 years in, if you're a 10-year-old company. There's different strategies for all of them. And there's also different strategies for the target client that you're going for. So whether you're going for high-end residential or these huge commercial jobs, or just kind of getting your foot in the dipping your toe in the commercial pond, as it were. There's different marketing strategies for all of those. But other than that, thank you for coming, and I'll see you in March.